the National Guard being sent in. New York's governor ordering a 1-mile radius around the state's largest hotspot. Outside New York, where dozens of people were exposed by an infected attorney who took the train into Grand Central. The man's wife now revealing he tried for days to get an answer on what he was suffering from. It was several days before he was tested for coronavirus. Tonight, the worker on the Barclays trading floor testing positive. Outside Dallas, a father and mother and their 3-year-old testing positive. Amid growing outrage from doctors in this country trying to get patients tested. And what the vice president said about test kits just moments ago. Also tonight, the sobering warning from the governor of Washington state tonight, what he's now predicting could potentially happen. There are now drive-through tests for the virus for healthcare workers on the front lines. And the operation underway in California tonight, thousands of cruise ship passengers being taken to 4 locations in the U.S. for quarantine. How are authorities reassuring communities they will be kept safe? In Italy tonight, the death toll soaring, 168 deaths just today. The disturbing images from inside hospitals there. Why has Italy been hit so hard? Some of the factors at play and what we can learn from it. Tonight, President Trump trying to ease economic fears over coronavirus, saying, quote, "Stay calm and it will go away." Breaking developments coming in tonight on this mini Super Tuesday. Will Joe Biden solidify his path to the nomination? What the preliminary exit polls are showing tonight.
This is ABC World News Tonight with David Muir.
Good evening, and it's great to have you with us here on this Tuesday night. And we begin with the coronavirus emergency. Tonight, the first containment zone here in America, the New York governor imposing restrictions on a community just outside New York City, linked to the largest cluster of cases in the country, calling it a matter of life and death. The containment zone shutting down schools and major gathering places within a 1-mile radius in the New York suburb of New Rochelle. At the center of the zone, this synagogue where dozens were exposed by a lawyer who remains in critical condition tonight. His wife now sharing her husband's struggle to find out that he was sick with the coronavirus. She says it took days for him to be tested after asking doctors at a hospital what was wrong with him. Tonight, across this country, there are at least 808 confirmed cases in 37 states and the District of Columbia, and 29 people have now died, 2 more just today. ABC's Whit Johnson leads us off tonight with the race to stop the spread, to save lives, and the battle over getting tests to everyone that should have them, with the National Guard now moving in that community. Whit leads us off.
Tonight, New York ordering the first containment zone in the U.S., with the number of infections in the state soaring to at least 173. The governor sending the National Guard to New Rochelle, a suburban hotspot north of Manhattan.
It is a dramatic action. This is literally a matter of life and death.
That zone of containment consisting of a 1-mile radius around the Young Israel Synagogue, where dozens of people were exposed by that infected attorney. Schools and buildings that hold large gatherings will shut down for 2 weeks. Most businesses and grocery stores will remain open. People will be allowed to enter and leave.
You're not containing people, it's facilities.
The wife of Lawrence Garbuz, that attorney who was the first in the area to get the virus, releasing a statement saying, as many have asked, of course he went to the doctor and did so many times. No one figured it out, and it even took the hospital days to figure it out. This was all new, adding, please pray for those who are positive, who have had high fevers and suffered from this. Among the new cases statewide, 2 school bus drivers testing positive. Officials say they're now notifying parents.
They transport between them approximately 80 students on several routes.
A Barclays employee who worked on their trading floor contracting the virus. Today, neighboring New Jersey reporting its first death, a 69-year-old man with underlying medical conditions. That state is also where 32-year-old physician's assistant James Kai is hospitalized. Kai describing himself as previously healthy, but the virus is taking a heavy toll.
Half of my lung is already pneumonia, not working, only half. So I don't know how much longer I have to keep my lung working.
The spread leading dozens of schools and colleges to suspend in-person classes, including Amherst, San Francisco State, and Ohio State University. Today, Harvard announcing it will begin transitioning to online instruction. Just outside Dallas, a father, his wife, and 3-year-old have tested positive.
The 3-year-old gives us a little more concern than the father who's healthy in his late 30s. But but we're praying for a quick recovery there, too.
A man in his 30s in Anoka County, Minnesota, reportedly sought medical care on March 3rd. He was evaluated and released tonight in critical condition after being diagnosed with the virus. COVID-19 delivering a massive blow to the airline industry. Delta announcing it will reduce its number of domestic flights by up to 15%, United 10%, and American 7.5%. Amtrak temporarily suspending several nonstop trains between New York and D.C. Our Gio Benitez on the rails.
It's usually tough to find an empty seat on the Amtrak Acela between New York and D.C. Not today. Just take a look. Seat after seat is empty.
Tonight, frustration reaching a boiling point over testing. This is what Vice President Pence pledged last week.
And by the weekend, another 1 million tests will be shipped around the country.
But tonight, 6,600 tests conducted nationwide. Pennsylvania has done just 7 tests. Massachusetts declaring a state of emergency.
I know you're hearing from a lot of doctors tonight who are concerned about not having the tests they say they need to test some of these patients presenting with severe symptoms. Here's what the vice president said from the White House just moments ago on those tests.
By the end of this week, there will be more than 4 million more tests made available in jurisdictions around the country. 1 million are already in place.
The vice president being pressed on all of those concerns you're hearing about from doctors on the front lines.
That's right, David. Many local governments are repeatedly complaining about backlogs and red tape. In fact, tonight we spoke to one doctor who says he has multiple patients who are showing possible symptoms and he still can't get them tested. David.
All right, Whit Johnson tonight. Whit, thank you. Next, the Grand Princess cruise ship is now docked in Oakland, California after days being kept out at sea. Just 46 people on board were tested, and of those 46, 21 testing positive. 19 of them crew members who are now staying behind. The rare sight of a flag tonight signifying contagion on board. And what now for the 2,400 passengers who are now disembarking? We know they'll be sent to 4 locations here in the U.S. for quarantine. And tonight, as they come ashore, the governor of Washington state with a sobering warning about where the outbreak may be headed. Here's ABC's chief national correspondent, Matt Gutman, tonight from California.
Tonight, frustration mounting aboard that virus-stricken ship.
We're getting a little discouraged.
The offloading process grindingly slow, and for many passengers, confusing.
Once we get off, which will probably be tomorrow, we still have 14 more days.
So, Mama, where are we?
We are quarantined.
Tiffany Essig, her husband, and 3 kids among the lucky ones.
They let us go first. Isn't that awesome? Yeah.
They disembarked and were promptly bused to 2 weeks of quarantine. Tonight, officials tell us that ship is flying the yellow flag, an international signal that it's under quarantine. And all 19 of the infected crew members now back on the ship for isolation. One passenger telling CNN the rules kept changing.
Yesterday they had to maintain 6 feet of distance from everyone. Last night, to exit the boat, they have us standing, next to each other.
Health officials say the outbreak on board a major concern is since 1,000 of its passengers are 70 or older, vulnerable age group. And in Washington state, we're seeing how unforgiving the virus can be for the elderly. 19 of the state's 22 deaths at this nursing home, and almost all of the surviving residents now infected. This hospital now using a drive-through to test its employees. The governor saying Washington state is now bracing for an explosion of cases.
In 7 or 8 weeks, there could be 64,000 people infected in the state of Washington if we don't somehow slow down this epidemic. And the next week it'd be 120,000, and the next week it'd be 250,000.
Those numbers got a lot of attention today. Matt with us again tonight from California. I know authorities in California tonight, Matt, are reassuring communities there that this whole process of bringing passengers off the ship is safe. And in the meantime, you heard the warning from Washington state's governor about the cases spiking there. And we're learning multiple nursing and long-term care facilities in Washington are reporting the virus has been detected as well.
David, some very disturbing news out of Washington state. In King County alone, 10 nursing homes and long-term care facilities reporting coronavirus. And just since yesterday, the number of patients statewide has nearly doubled. Now, the governor issuing some measures to try to control the spread, including limiting one visitor per patient per day in these nursing homes. The question, David, is it enough, and is it soon enough? David.
Matt Gutman with us again tonight from California. Matt, thank you. It was last night here. We reported on Italy under lockdown now. Tonight, the death toll soaring yet again. 168 more deaths in just 24 hours. And the stark images out of Italy tonight, a barricade closing off St. Peter's Square at the Vatican. In Rome, an ambulance crew securing their protective gear. A temperature check at a border crossing with Austria. And the disturbing images of the hospitals there simply trying to cope. We should note that ABC's James Longman, who's been reporting from Italy for some time for us, is now in self-quarantine back in London because of what authorities have asked of him. We'll check in with James in just a moment. But first, his report from Italy tonight.
Tonight, the death toll in Italy soaring. Coronavirus taking 168 more lives after nearly 100 died the day before. Fatalities now over 600. Italy's elderly population, the overwhelming victims. The number of total cases topping 10,000. Hospitals in the north finding it hard to cope, making difficult choices about who to treat. ICUs are overflowing. Some hospitals building tents to test and treat the infected. The virus sucking the life out of the rest of the country. 60 million people in effective quarantine. No travel allowed for most, unless it's for work or an approved reason. Police enforcing the lockdown. Authorities urging people to keep about 3 feet away from others. Pat Leiter, an American living in northern Italy, showing us the do not cross line at her grocery store.
Then when you went to the deli counter, there was a big red tape line so that you could order from a minute away and call out your order.
Italy has the worst outbreak outside Asia, but China and South Korea are reporting fewer cases. And China's Prime Minister Xi visited the epicenter of the virus in Wuhan for the first time, signaling that the worst may have passed. But Italy remains gripped by the crisis. We got out on the last British Airways flight out.
There are people everywhere, and it looks very clear that a lot of people are trying to get out of Italy.
But getting out is becoming increasingly hard to do.
James Longman reporting tonight, and we should mention that James is back in London. He got the last flight out on British Airways from Italy back to London, and upon arriving in the UK, he was told by authorities to self-quarantine. And so I want to bring James Longman in with us tonight from where he is under quarantine. And James, first of all, what did authorities tell you to do, and for how long will you be in sort of this situation?
Well, there's no mandatory quarantine in the United Kingdom, David, but authorities do ask people that if they've been in Italy, they stay at home for at least 14 days. Actually, Rome and London do have a similar number of cases, around 90, so we're going to reassess in about a week's time.
All right, about a week's time. And it's very interesting, James, that they suggested this to you because we've heard reports here in this country of college students coming back from Italy and that they weren't asked questions at the airport upon arriving here in the U.S. So very interesting that in the UK, they've asked you to do this. In the meantime, I wanted to broaden out the picture here. You've been to Italy 3 times now to report, and we've seen this escalating crisis there, the severe toll on the Italian people. I know age is a factor in Italy and some of the cultural norms. Talk us through this.
Yeah, absolutely, David. There is a large elderly population in Italy. It's actually the second oldest population on Earth, and old people tend to stay home with their families. So there's a potential there for a real mix of people and the virus to be able to spread. It's certainly taking its toll on the elderly in Italy. David.
James Longman again tonight. James, thank you, and we'll be checking in on you, obviously, as often as we can. In the meantime, tonight, President Trump trying to ease economic fears over the coronavirus back here in this country, saying today, quote, "Stay calm and it will go away." Tonight, the proposal's now on the table to ease the economic pain from all of this. And ABC's Mary Bruce asking the president today, how long should Americans prepare for the economy to suffer as well?
On Capitol Hill today, the president issued an economic recovery plan to counter the uncertainty sparked by coronavirus.
Mr. President, how long should Americans be prepared for the economy to suffer?
Well, this was unexpected. It will go away. Just stay calm. It will go away. We want to protect our shipping industry, our cruise industry, cruise ships. We want to protect our airline industry, very important. But everybody has to be vigilant and has to be careful. But be calm. It's really working out, and a lot of good things are going to happen.
A key part of the president's plan, a payroll tax cut. But even some Republicans are skeptical, suggesting it's more of a band-aid than a solution.
To me, that seems more like, like a maintenance mode than it is more of a stimulus.
Democrats blunt in their criticism.
The administration seems to believe that the answer to any problem is another tax cut.
The president says he has not been tested for the virus, even though he spent time with 3 people, including his new chief of staff, who are now self-quarantining after coming into contact with a man who tested positive.
I don't think it's a big deal. I would do it. I don't feel that any reason. I feel extremely good. I feel very good.
The virus now top of mind in Washington, but the administration is sending mixed messages about what precautions to take. At the Pentagon, reporters spread out in the briefing room, but at the White House, the president spoke to a packed room. In the Capitol, members of Congress pressed Speaker Pelosi on whether they should work remotely. Her answer, quote, "We are the captains of the ship. We are the last to leave."
Now today, the House Speaker and the Treasury Secretary huddled for about half an hour to try and come up with a recovery plan. Options on the table include enhancing unemployment insurance or providing paid leave to sick employees. But it is not clear if the president is going to get on board. Today, he seemed to dismiss the Democrats' proposals, suggesting they're too scattered. David.
All right, Mary Bruce. Mary, thank you. And on the economy tonight, the Dow gaining back more than 1,100 points at the day's end today, nearly 5%. That comes after yesterday's record fall. Traders appearing to be encouraged by this talk of stimulus, but certainly more volatility to come. There is still much more ahead on World News Tonight this Tuesday. The other major news of the night, the breaking developments in the race for 2020. On this mini Super Tuesday, will Joe Biden solidify his path to the nomination in his fight against Bernie Sanders? What the preliminary exit polls are showing tonight. Also new images this evening, American and Canadian fighter jets intercepting 2 Russian planes. We'll tell you where this happened. And new talk tonight about a potential major change for the Summer Olympics because of coronavirus. And changes already for Jeopardy and Wheel of Fortune. A lot more news ahead. I'll be right back.
Seresto, Seresto, Seresto.
Jake.
Seresto, Seresto, Seresto. Whatever your dog brings home to you, it shouldn't be fleas and ticks. Seresto gives your dog 8 continuous months of flea and tick protection in an easy-to-use, non-greasy collar. Seresto, Seresto, Seresto.
Oh, no, Jake.
Seresto. 8 months. Seresto, Seresto, Seresto.
All right, it's your last chance to win $7,000 a week for life from Publishers Clearinghouse. It don't get no better than this. $7,000 a week, week after week, for life.
It could be you.
That's right, Howie, but time's running out. So you got to enter at PCH.com before it's too late. April 30th, we could ring your doorbell. Real people really do win. $7,000 a week for life. Hurry, enter now at PCH.com.
I used to be a little cranky. Dealing with our finances really haunted me.